Good evening, hello and welcome to the India Development Debate. I'm Nayantara Rai. A few kilometers away from the ET Now studio is the venue of the Mega Auto Expo 2020. This is where you see the car companies unveil big wheels, what's in store for Motown going ahead. Going into Auto Expo 2020, we did see this event suffer from coronavirus, catch a flu of sorts with a lot of Chinese officials giving it a skip, no choice over there. But even before the coronavirus, thanks to the slowdown in the auto sector, a lot of the big wigs had decided to skip Auto Expo 2020. Before we get to a snapshot of all the big launches, announcements, and what's there to look forward to, here is ET Now taking a quick drive through the Auto Expo. Well, there you go. That's a quick spin that ET Now took. And let me go across to one of the biggest voices when it comes to the auto sector, Hormazd Sorabjee, now joining us right here on the India Development Debate. Hormazd, always a pleasure talking to you. This is Nayantara Rai. What did you make of Auto Expo 2020? Yes, it might be suffering from a flu of sorts, but even before that, a lot of the big wigs had decided to skip this year's edition.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the coronavirus basically didn't affect the participation, just the people coming from China. As you said, they had no choice. So we don't have a big Chinese delegation over here, but we do have a lot of the big Chinese brands. In fact, Great Wall is making their debut here for the first time. We've got Haima as well. And of course, MG, which is an SAIC owned brand, is also here in full force. But, honestly, you have a lot of the big brands in India which traditionally have taken part, whether it's Toyota, Honda, Nissan. They're just not here, even from, let's say, the German manufacturers, the luxury guys, Audi and BMW, they used to be here. They're not here. We've just got Mercedes as the sole representative of the luxury segment. So quite honestly, actually, it's been quite a muted affair. Of course, there have been some interesting launches. But, having covered this or having been to the Auto Expo, my first one was, I think, 93 it was. This is probably the most muted Auto Expo yet.
Okay, so it's a muted Auto Expo 2020, but it's still the biggest that you have in Asia, Hormazd. And I'm going to now ask you that with what's there, what's on display, and from day one, what was the showstopper for you?
Well, I think there were a lot of interesting cars, but I think for me it was, the Tata, what they call the H2X. It's almost a production-ready version of it. For me, that was, I would say, a showstopper from a point of view that, one, it does look great, and it's sort of here and now. It's ready to be made, and it's going to be at the low end of the market, so you're going to get a fantastic-looking vehicle for 5 lakhs. I think they've done a great job on the design, like a lot of the Tata products. So for me, that really was a standout, because what the company has achieved in a car at that price point and a small compact SUV, that's really been quite impressive. So I think that was one thing which was good. Then there were some interesting concepts. You had a Future E from Maruti, which again is more a indication of which direction the company is going. They're looking at a slightly bigger SUV than what they have right now, which is the Vitara Brezza, because they've been absent in the hottest contested SUV segment, which is the mid-size SUV segment, and the most lucrative one at that. But what they're doing is they're showing a concept where they're going to be trying to major on style. Now, style hasn't been Maruti's strength, but that's what they're trying to achieve over there. From Mahindra, lots of concepts. We were hoping to see the Thar, but that wasn't there. So basically, Mahindra, nothing that's really production ready. But I think what impressed me at Mahindra was they've showcased their range of new petrol engines. And for Mahindra, that's important because the company which has a perception of being very diesel driven, all the images of overloaded Mahindras with 20 people on the roof going all over rural India. So they've got a reputation of making frugal diesel engines. But with the shift towards petrol, they urgently need to change that perception. And they launched a whole range of petrol engines. They were tucked away in a corner, but it was good to see because everyone was talking about EVs, every manufacturer as well. So I think there was a lot that way. I think, Hyundai showed the Tucson. The other big one was the Sonnet from Kia. There's a compact SUV that's going to be addressing a big segment of the market. You have the Carnival, which was officially launched with a price around 25 lakhs to 34 lakhs. So a bit aggressive on the expensive side, but for what you get, it's good value. So you had MG also showing a whole range of products, but some of their main ones been delayed coming here because of coronavirus. So you'll see models like the Gloucester and all coming. I think what was really impressive was Great Wall, because this is a Chinese brand and it's a quality Chinese brand. You see some of their products and the quality really is quite impressive, not what you typically would associate with a Chinese brand. So I think there was a lot for everyone. Still, you could cover the show quite quickly. Two-wheeler manufacturers almost completely absent. You had Suzuki and Hero Electric, but other than that, there was not much. And of course, at the luxury end, you had Mercedes. Again, not showing anything of great significance. They showed their camper van, which is quite interesting, and they even showcased the A-Class, the sedan version of it. So that also is something which is going to be one of their significant models. So Renault also, they kind of showcased a new engine and the fact that they bring the Tribo, which is popular, with an automatic. So that's also there. But otherwise, really nothing that is going to be wow. Tomorrow is going to be the new Creta. That's going to be the big one because from a market point of view, that's really going to be a big volume product.
Yeah, and we've seen the Hyundai Creta, of course, be a very, very popular car here in the country. But Hormazd, before I let you go, when you had N. Chandra today at the Auto Expo, and something that he alluded to in the presence of Ratan Tata just a few days back, the Tata Group and its focus on sustainability. And I think N. Chandra, in that sense, kind of stealing the show today.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't there for the actual unveil. I was somewhere else. But obviously the chairman coming is very significant, and clearly this is a big day for Tata Motors. They are committed to electric mobility, and having said that, I think Tata Motors, what it has done is it's kind of leapfrogged the competition, even caught the competition napping in that sense. Don't forget, Mahindra had such a long lead over them, and Tata has come with a 300-volt architecture for its Nexon EV, which Mahindra doesn't have. They have the EKUV, which they've launched at a very low price, around 8.25, just about 30,000 more than the top-end diesel. So that's very competitive, but it comes with a low-voltage architecture, 72 volts, so the performance you get is not there. So obviously a lot of compromises with EVs. Frankly, I think EVs is bandied about a lot, but I think it's finally the consumer that's going to decide whether these cars will gain traction quickly or not. So a lot of buzz about them. Obviously, you will see a lot of EVs in the market, but I don't see EVs getting more than 1% market share in the next 5 years.
And Mahindra's, did you manage to go to that pavilion? There's a lot of action, and always you see a lot of camaraderie as well between the rivals at Auto Expo. We saw N. Chandra at the Maruti pavilion, for example, checking out what Maruti has in store. And just before I let you go, you talked about how Tata is trying to drive into the Mahindra territory. Pavan Goenka was also there today. Did you manage to go to the Mahindra pavilion? What did you make of it?
Yeah, that's right. As I said, I think what I saw on the Mahindra Pavilion, obviously you had various concepts, electric concepts. Now, none of these cars are going to make it to production, but it's just a showcase of what their future strategy or thinking is. You got something like the Funster, which is a very powerful EV with integrated motors in each wheel, very, very high tech. They're drawing from their Formula E technology. Of course, we're not going to see a production version of this in a hurry. But as I mentioned earlier, what was interesting is that Mahindra, betting big on petrol technology, and they had showcased their new range of M Stallion engines. And I think in terms of, BS6 readiness, Mahindra is possibly one of the most ready companies, really geared up for BS6 with all new petrol engines and some superb diesel engines all ready to make that transition. So I would say, companies like Hyundai and Kia and Mahindra, they're better placed than all the other manufacturers from an engine standpoint going into BS6.
Hormazd, just a quick word on two-wheelers. We haven't really discussed that as yet. Any excitement on that front today, or is that going to be in the days to come?
To be honest, I mean, there was Suzuki and Hero, really not much to be launched. And I think a lot of low-cost electric bikes all over the place from China. So I think that's really been what has been there. But, we've not had the biggies like Honda, TVS, Bajaj, Enfield. Sadly, none of them have been there. They've all stayed away. I think the point I want to bring also is that the Auto Expo this year has come at a very crucial time when the industry is making the transition from BS4 to BS6. In fact, they're doing it right now. And Auto Expo in that sense, it's, over a week-long affair, 10-day-long affair, is a huge distraction. It takes up a lot of management bandwidth at this very crucial time. So I think that's also one factor where I think we've seen a kind of loss of participation is because it's come smack in the most critical period of the switchover from BS4 to BS6.
And Hormazd, I promise this will indeed be my final question. Now, going into this year, in a budget speech and then what was tabled, we do know that imported cars are going to get more expensive, electrical vehicles are going to get more expensive, and this is not good news for the likes of Kia, it's not good news for Hyundai, MG Motors and all of that. Was that a big discussion point at the Auto Expo? Because, the reality is that all of these brands, the cars are going to get much more expensive.
Yeah, I think it doesn't make sense that duties on electrical components, electric parts have been hiked up. But in any case, EVs are really a small proportion, not going to have any impact. But it just kind of just shows the thinking. To be put it quite bluntly, there's a lot of apathy from the government, not even a mention of the auto industry over here. And, I think what the industry has achieved going from BS4 to BS6 in 4 years, it's like running a marathon like a 100-meter sprint. It's been absolutely an amazing achievement. Not even a pat on the back by way of a reduction in GST for achieving a higher emission norm, which actually reduces pollution. It's just a logical thing to do. You've got 5% GST on EVs, which no one really buys, and they're all expensive, so it just doesn't make sense. So I think, a lot of it is optics, a lot of it is grandstanding for EVs, but I think, what has been done is the whole move to BS6. It's really kind of stretched the industry, taken the wind out of it. It's impacted business. And the fact that we've had this, I would say, quite an illogical order where they had to stop selling it on April 1 rather than stop producing it. Only place in the world we do it is over here, to prove some, point, which frankly doesn't save lives, but it really hurts livelihoods. So I think, all these factors not good for the industry, which I think deserves, I would say, even a medal for going from BS4 to BS6 in an absolutely incredibly short span of time. It's never been done before. But I think that's the way it is. Industry has to, I think, face up to the new norm, and I think 2020 is going to be another bleak year for the auto industry because cars are getting more expensive. You've got a lot of diesel cars out of the market, so the economy of that has gone, and petrol cars are going to come to bite the consumer because they don't have the same efficiency, and consumers, I think, are going to just hang on to what they have for some time. So people say it's going to improve in the second half of the year, but I'm a little doubtful.
So quick word then on affordability, Hormazd, is what you're saying. It's illogical. You don't like it. This protectionism, but this protectionism right now everywhere, every country is looking inward, and clearly India being no different. And that was one of the big themes of Union Budget 2020, and Nirmala Sitharaman making it clear that, if Make in India has to get a fillip like this, like other countries, so be it. So is this also the big message from 1st of February and everything you're seeing at Auto Expo, the switch to BS6 as well, that if you thought cars weren't expensive enough, brace yourselves, they're going to get a lot more expensive?
Yeah, exactly. And you think when cars get more expensive, obviously the volumes shrink. And when the volumes shrink, this is a very capital intensive business. You need volumes to justify investments to make in India. So with low volumes, you can't make in India. So you've got to kind of create an environment, an ecosystem, or create a market, where you have high volumes, because that's the only way you can make in India. That's the name of this game. Volumes means high level of localization and a car that's more make in India. And that's one of the messages which we got from a company like Volkswagen and Skoda. They've kind of unveiled their new models. You had the Vision I from Skoda and the Taigun from Volkswagen. And I was speaking to Ben Meyer of the global CEO of Skoda, and he says he wants to be as local as possible, because that's the way to really get the costs down. But you need a certain volume for that. He's also struggling with it. He's banking on certain export markets. But I think quite frankly, deep down, and they don't want to say this publicly, I think the that kind of dream of the India being a huge auto market, I think that's pretty much over. People are over here, but a lot of them are not, let's say, pedal to the metal or flat out on it. They're not as gung-ho as they used to be, and that's quite evident even in the participation.
So let's see what happens, but this is Asia's largest Auto Expo 2020. It's going to be on for the next couple of days, and we'll keep getting Hormazd Sorabjee for you guys for his take every day of the Auto Expo. With that, Hormazd, thanks a lot for joining in.